This series I originally introduced autumn of 2016. Before we jump into the video, let's discuss actions that don't fall in the lines of cherry picking, but often get mistaken for cherry picking. At the top of the list, fighting your mandatory opponents. A champion's duty is to fight one mandatory annually. If they are not trying to unify titles, they should be fighting their mandatory opponents. So instead of shaming responsible champions doing their job as champion, you should be taking that energy and going after fighters that avoid their duties and find everything to not fight their mandatory, all while pretending to have such interest in unifying.
Aren't you embarrassed by this? A great fighter having to fight
a mandatory that's by the rules. I have to fight because they would do like Roy Jones didn't want him to do before he fought John Ruiz.
Don't tell me about John. Anybody else.
If I didn't fight and defend my mandatory with the WBC, they would have stripped me. And I don't care what you say or anybody else say. This is my life, it's my prerogative. You do your job, I do mine.
Active full-time boxers fight much more annually than an average fighter. They do this because either they do not have the financial luxury of having training camps, and this is a way of staying in shape, gaining experience, staying sharp while earning an extra dollar. Perfect example, former champion Mastercut Rungvisai. Rungvisai became mandatory for the WBC Super Flyweight title, earning his rematch against Carlos Cuadras in 2014. Somehow Rungvisai did not get his fight for the title till 2017. Instead of just waiting around, gathering rust, and not making money, because he doesn't have such luxuries like fighters out west, he fought regularly till ultimately the WBC threw that burden on Roman Gonzalez. Now you're probably asking, does a guy like Julio Cesar Chavez belong in this bracket? And he actually does not. He fought all his mandatory contenders annually and stayed busy throughout the year, fighting opponents that you can classify as a sparring partner, but getting paid to do so like a Buck Smith. This certainly kept Chavez in shape and sharp, as he had a small window of time to take a legitimate break where one could put on some weight and party. Which, if we go back to Chavez's crazy lifestyle during those periods where he wasn't fighting for a couple months, that certainly helped prolong his career, as it forces him to be in fighting shape for almost a whole year, compared to your traditional seasonal 2 fights a year boxer, who few do breaks in moderation and stay in shape during those breaks of no fights. There is absolutely no one available on that schedule to be matched up against you. The date is already made for the fight, but the laundry list of opponents may not be available. In an ideal case, you will have that champ fight someone who is ranked in the top 10 of Ring Magazine, or 15 by that belt organization. If there are neither, that's a cherry pick. Example, Ledwaba's mandatory had backed out. Despite Manny Pacquiao being ranked in the top 10, on paper he is not next in line. Unless you have vital context, all of those opponents ranked above Pacquiao were not in no shape or form available to fight Ledwaba at that already scheduled date, so the IBF had to recognize it and grant Manny as a new challenger for Ledwaba's title. Lastly, purposely stalling a fight to where that fighter has a lower chance of defeating you. The average person wouldn't be able to see. A perfect, well-documented example is Sugar Ray Leonard against Marvin Hagler. Most ignored it because Leonard's eye injury and his long layoff, but Leonard had been putting off this fight for years, as it was literally brought up as early as the Larry Bonds fight in 1981, 6 months before the Hearns fight, as an option of the Hearns fight if it didn't happen, but also a future fight for Leonard if he were to get past Hearns.
For Leonard, this is the first part of a 3-fight strategy. The next fight scheduled for June is supposed to be against Ayub Kalouli, the junior middleweight champion. And after that, later in the year, a big one against a dangerous opponent. Either Hearns, the WBA champion, Cuevas, the former WBA champion, or our color man tonight, Marvin Hagler.
Leonard invited Muhammad Ali, Howard Cosell, and 10,000 other friends and fans to a gala ceremony in Baltimore's Civic Center. For Hagler's camp, the personal request of their presence could only mean one thing.
Leonard would then troll fans, media, and Hagler himself that he was going to fight him, attracting a massive crowd to a venue just to announce that he was retiring, which absolutely devastated Hagler.
And we sat there with that anticipation as Leonard led us down the primrose path.
To Marvin Hagler, a fight with this great man, this great champion, could be one of the greatest fights in the history of boxing. But unfortunately, it'll never happen.
Marvin never, ever forgave him for that. To this day, you say Ray Leonard and you duck if you're with Marvin Hagler.
It wasn't up till close to 4 years later, after his second retirement, he decided to fight Hagler, all because he saw a piece of him slow down in the Mugabe fight. It's something only Leonard saw and no one else, to where Leonard himself even acknowledged.
And when the ref said 10, Ray stood up, he looked at me and said, I can beat him, I'm gonna fight him.
People ask me, "So you coming back?" I said, "No, I'm not coming back." But if Marvin Hagler called me, I consider something like that.
Ray, don't worry about it.
I'm not saying, no, JB, listen, we're talking here. I'm not saying I'm coming back. I said, if he should call me, it's something I could really consider.
I was home watching TV. They said Sugar Ray Leonard will be fighting Marvin Hagler. I said, what?
But the fight was so big and ended up being so good that no one cared it was an actual cherry. With all that being said, let's start the video. So this was a fight after Guerrero's loss against Danny Garcia. His opponent will be David Emmanuel Peralta. Robert just came off fighting for a title. The matchmakers really went deep and far finding an opponent, because Peralta is virtually unknown. All his fights were in Argentina. He did fight for the IBF Latino title and lost fights prior, but he was unranked. Peralta is not even in the top 40 ranks by the WBC. Neither has any rank with the IBF. Guerrero was ranked number 13 by the WBC. Given the fact that this was a main event, this was certainly a fight to put Guerrero in a position for something bigger against a guy on paper who was supposed to have given him a highlight reel victory. Now, there are many cases over the decades, and if not a century of boxing, on and off record, where fighters would joke on other fighters' opponents saying they fought cab drivers, which somehow that's supposed to equate to an inferior fighter because they have to work a job to contribute to their other job. David Peralta is an actual cab driver in Argentina who boxes whenever he can. Peralta, in his biggest fight, would rise to the occasion and put that century-old stereotype to rest, giving Guerrero all he can handle, even dropping him in the 9th round, which wasn't counted as a knockdown. Peralta would win by split decision. USA Today is real petty with this headline. They're right, but wrong, but right at the same time. Fonfara was making the defense of his international WBC title against unknown Joe Smith Jr. Not much information on Joe Smith besides the notes from local news that he was rising through the ranks. Based on the opponents he was fighting at the time, headlining small club events, he may have been in the top 50 ranks of the WBC, because unfortunately, due to the inconsistent available records of the WBC ranks month to month, year to year, I can't give a 100% accurate rank, especially in this case. Fonfara Smith was a setup fight for a rematch against Adonis Stevenson, who is actually yet to fight his mandatory or unified titles. This setup fight is in summer of 2016, and his last mandatory defense was in 2013. So this was a rematch that no one wanted to see. Stevenson had already convincingly beaten Fonfara, and everyone wanted a Kovalev, Hopkins, or fight his mandatory, the number 4 ranked Eleider Alvarez. So a ridiculous matchup no one wanted, that was almost mashed down through the boxing fans' throats, came to a miraculous end when Joe Smith pulled off the upset of the year, knocking Fonfara out in the first round of the fight in an impressive fashion. So if you're going to blatantly avoid your mandatory by paying him off to step aside, Joe Smith Jr., now actually ranked at number 2 in the ratings, right below the guy his folks been holding back. Nope, that matchup doesn't happen. Stevenson goes ahead and fight unknown Thomas Williams Jr. The light heavyweight division had a major hangover when exiting out of the early 2010s. A lot of potential for the new era was ruined thanks to greed and ego. Now luckily in the 2020s, that division has finally recovered. Victor Postal was the mandatory opponent for Garcia's title, and Danny found some way to not only avoid fighting Postal, but also having the WBC and WBA to sanction a 12-round championship bout against an unranked lightweight, the 19-3 Rod Salka. This was going forward as a championship bout. If it wasn't for Teddy Atlas's rant, calling them out and calling out Al Heyman, followed up with media backlash, this certainly would have been
unranked by the WBC and WBA, and yet he's fighting for Danny Garcia's junior welterweight title. Now, Teddy, there are criteria and qualifications you have to meet to fight in a title fight. One of them is that you have to be either a top 10 rated contender, a former champion, or a current champion, among other things. He doesn't meet any of those criteria. So how is he getting this fight?
He's not rated. I wanted to show you that 15 guys in each one of those organizations are rated. He's not one of them. He's not even close.
For both titles in a 12-round bout. Due to all of that, this fight was made a 10-round non-title bout, but it looked like the title purses remained the same as Garcia pulled in $700K and Rod Salka $125K, which that itself is a meme because he made more money than the UFC champion Amanda Nunes when she fought Ronda Rousey. Rousey, who received a $3 million purse, and Nunes 100K. Garcia was really in a great position to almost unify the entire division to become undisputed. Lamont Peterson was already the IBF champ for a while. He was already a household name, but they stalled making this fight for so long to where it didn't even matter anymore. I don't think it would have been any issues trying to fight the newly crowned WBO champ Chris Algieri because he wasn't a top-ranked fighter or had any exclusive contract with HBO. There's not too much to discuss fight-wise. Danny disposed of Rod Salka, celebrates like he made a statement. What makes this worse is, yes, Rod fought at lightweight, but also easily made super featherweight, which he did one fight later. So this is one of the only fights on the list where the fighter caught cherry picking wins the fight, but really lost because a majority of fight fans never looked at Danny the same, especially after the Peterson fight. This was before Instagram had a comment filter system and limited or turned off comment section. Fight fans for months to a year would flood Danny's posts with cherry emojis. The 1993 year started big for Morrison when he defeated Foreman for the WBO title. With the climbing of the heavyweight class, the departure of Mike Tyson, the fading of Evander Holyfield, Morrison, with his popularity because of the Rocky movie, becoming champ and sharing some Tyson-like characteristics, he had a massive chance of becoming boxing's biggest star. He won the belt, put on some great shows, and secured a massive big money fight against Lennox Lewis. All Morrison had to do was just prepare for his fight with Lewis in December of '93. Ego, because this is what Morrison wanted, then powered by greed of his handlers because that's more money to be made and sell out arenas. This incredibly risky fight was made against unknown Michael Bent, which was labeled a tune-up fight despite Morrison already fighting 2 months earlier. Michael Bent had to have taken that personal, especially insulting, because Morrison is supposed to be fighting Lewis and stop Morrison in the first round, become the new WBO champion, and ruining Team Morrison plans. Ortiz is just coming off his fight with Floyd Mayweather and his suspension for blatantly headbutting Floyd due to his on-record rant on Seconds Out. Due to how the narrative was flipped to make Ortiz look like the victim out of all of this, Ortiz's popularity was at a newfound high despite the loss. So the new goal was to set Ortiz up in September against rising star Canelo Alvarez to compete with the HBO September date of Martinez vs. Chavez Jr. This was all put into works after just moments finalizing the contract for a September date.
Alvarez, Chavez, and Martinez, the biggest names out there right now in my weight besides Mayweather and Pacquiao. And I know that ain't gonna come true, so I look for the ones I can make it get.
And you like staying at this weight? You're comfortable 154?
60 don't matter to me. You know what I'm saying? As long as I get a guy that's in front of me that's willing to fight, it don't matter. We come in at 101.
Former champion Paul Williams would get into a motorbike accident, leaving himself paralyzed from the legs down. With the Ortiz-Berto rematch being cancelled due to Berto testing positive for steroids, there was high hopes Ortiz would be that fighter to fill in that September date with an easy setup match since the June 23rd date was already booked by the promotion. His new opponent, semi-unknown Josecito Lopez. Lopez made his name beating undefeated prospect Mike Dallas Jr., giving him his first loss, and then losing losing in a close fight against next generation hopeful Jesse Vargas. Lopez had no rank by Ring Magazine at 140, but he did have rank within the WBC because of his win against Mike Dallas Jr., sitting at number 12. Also, keep in mind that this was before somehow Mike had a fight with Lucas Matisse for the WBC interim title to fight Danny Garcia. Lopez was chosen because he seemed like an easy pick for a tune-up fight for Canelo in September, as Mike Dallas wasn't seen as much and Jesse Vargas at the time was looking like a bust. It really didn't help that Bob Arum boldly said that Jesse will one day be fighting Manny Pacquiao. That raised expectations high, and looking at his performance from then all the way before the Bradley fight, it was the least bit impressive. Not a single opponent they threw to this guy made him look good. So the fight, Ortiz was looking good and Lopez kept it competitive, which was expected. But what was not expected, that Lopez, despite starting to look fatigued, would come back the way he did, and due to possibly the worst luck on Ortiz's end, he would get clipped by a barrage of shots which would break his jaw. Right at the final 20 seconds of the round, Lopez immediately knew something was up. He was back at 100% HP because of it, as Ortiz had no answer back, as he tries to give Lopez a bluff to keep Lopez at bay, but Lopez wasn't having it, which caused Ortiz to quickly backpedal away on the defensive till the round comes to an end. Ortiz will retire on his stool, and Lopez will be declared the winner by TKO. The look on Canelo and Oscar's face is priceless, as Oscar's plan A and now plan B is down the drain for September. Vitaly Klitschko retires, and we would see possibly the worst and weakest title grab in the history of the weight class. Chris Arreola managing to earn the WBC international title against American heavyweight hopeful Seth Mitchell. Then Bermane Stiverne just barely managing to get a win against former contender Ray Alston. You see what Latimer did to him in 2 rounds.
I didn't expect that it's gonna be as easy as it was, and it was easy actually, because Ray Alston was much slower than my sparring partners.
And you see that this is an even fight where Ray is up on the scorecards. It really just goes to tell you how bad the state of the heavyweight division is in North America.
He's fighting a journeyman. The journeyman is schooling him right now.
Ray Austin just jabbing, piling up points. 86-84, Ray to Rain Man Austin.
Klitschko, I don't know if he ever threw a punch. and Klitschko actually never threw a right hand in that fight.
Ended it with a left hook.
Which will put in perspective class of heavyweight we're watching here.
Right.
So Vitaly's vacant title was fought between Stiverne and Chris Arreola in a rematch. Stiverne will beat Chris. Now, Latimer, at that point, was making it his mission to get his brother's title back to become undisputed, as he holds all the rest of the titles. So the powers to be across the pond was like, yep, that's not gonna happen. And Wilder Stiverne was made. Wilder would plow through Stiverne, but he managed to let Stiverne back into the fight in the final quarter due to just being exhausted. Wilder would earn a wide unanimous decision to become the first American title holder since Shannon Briggs in 2006. Klitschko is calling for unification for the undisputed title. Stiverne and then Wilder's management is not having it, pulling all the excuses out of the book, saying Wilder is not ready to fight a Klitschko. Since Klitschko is not ranked by the WBC, he can't force Wilder to fight him, which that would be Klitschko's next attempt, since the writing's on the wall, he's being blocked. So he tries to get a fight with a ranked WBC opponent. That would be number 3 WBC ranked Bryant Jennings. Also, funny note that when Klitschko Jennings was announced, Jennings was magically removed from the WBC rankings. Keep in mind, Jennings was ranked number 3 by the WBC January 2015. The very next month, he is nowhere to be found. So with all this context here, of possibly the most protected title, we see Wilder face Eric Molina, who magically went from number 26 in the rankings to number 11. You had Stiverne, who lost to Wilder for the title, still in the top 5 ranks, all while Bryant Jennings, who is scheduled to fight Klitschko, removed altogether. Absolutely insane.
Any other sport, there'd be an attorney general would be showing up somewhere and saying, wait a minute, we have to investigate this. Wait a minute. You can't just move a guy from nowhere to all of a sudden where he's going to fight for a world title. Unfortunately, in this sport, with no proper supervising, no proper watchdog, no proper policing, And that's why the sport is always in a threat of becoming less and less relevant.
All right, the fight. So Wilder does his thing early. Molina also starting to connect in the second round. The third round, Wilder would get cracked by Molina, then followed up with Wilder making more fundamental mistakes to get cracked again. Molina on a full offense for the greater period of the round till Wilder would regain his legs and we would see him rally back in the final 20 seconds. That momentum will be on Wilder's side as he is a much fresher out of the two. He will clearly win the round and drop Molina in the final seconds of the fourth. Molina will catch another knockdown in the fifth round. Molina, tired and in survival mode for 2 rounds, would finally recover and catch a second win, piling shots on Wilder, the body attack stopping Wilder's offense. And here we see why so much was made to prevent Klitschko from having a chance of fighting Wilder. Molina looking punched out, and he is just winging shots to the body and head, wide open to be countered with absolutely no answer from Wilder, which this boosted Molina's confidence where he finished the round strong. His best round in the fight since the third. The ninth was an offensive struggle by both guys. That rush Molina had in the 8th wore off, and he looked like a tiny breeze would tip him over. Wilder would find his opening after Molina had repeated the same telegraph combination, the second time really leaving himself out there to get countered. Wilder lands a counter right as Molina rushes in, and he was just out from that alone as the other shots missed. In 2007, Erik Morales would announce his retirement from boxing after losing to WBC champion David Diaz by a close unanimous decision. In 2010, he would make a comeback to boxing. Most took it not seriously, and the usual stereotypical responses, "Oh, he needs money. Stop trying to relive your glory days. Just stop. You're ruining your legacy." The man already sealed his legacy. Let him finish his career the way he wants to. His first fight was at welterweight. He will then have another fight 7 months apart where he will weigh in at 143, and to end the year off in his final fight of the 2010 year, he'll make the junior welterweight class. So it seemed like Erik's approach, he decided to fight on smaller cards as to get the rust off, sharpen up, and most certainly get that weight off. And it wasn't like he was fighting nobodies. His first fight back, he fought former champion and contender Jose Gazzo. Gazzo just coming off a loss against Antonio DeMarco for the WBA interim title, then Willie Lyman for the WBC silver title. Lyman was on a 5-win streak after losing to Amir Khan, which Lyman had knocked Khan down in their bout for the Commonwealth title. Despite Morales sort of just being thrown into the WBC ranks after his comeback fight, literally in the top 3 ranks, which I can't really give you a reason why, Morales definitely had to prove to people behind the scenes he belongs in the ranks in general, which he did. That went overlooked due to Morales' physical appearance. To start the 2011 year off, Morales was given most would see as a retirement fight. This matchup was demonized by the fans and media. HBO just barely gave this a green light to even put their name beside it. If not, this would have been a Golden Boy pay-per-view like Casemiro versus Marquez. HBO didn't really push the fight either, despite it being a pay-per-view. I didn't even get to talk about Maidana. So Maidana is coming off hot off his show against Amir Khan, and since Morales had ranked within the WBA at number 5, I don't know how, but this was selected to be for the interim WBA title. Maidana was supposed to blow through Morales, pass the torch, Morales retires, and Maidana gets the Amir Khan rematch.
In the absence of the chance to fight Marquez, to the shock and surprise of almost all ringside critics, Morales reached out and said, "I want to fight Marcos Maidana." It is regarded by almost everyone here as a very bad idea, but he's Erik Morales. He has a sure ticket to the Hall of Fame. He is as arrogant as any fighter in the last 20 years.
Hardcore Morales fans would gather for one last match, hoping this would not end up like Chavez's final title shot. Well, it certainly started off bad as Morales gets thumbed in the eye and pummeled in the first round. Morales' eye is closed shut. In an average fight, it would have stopped right after that round. But given the fact that this is more than likely Morales' last fight, this is a headliner to a pay-per-view, and the money spent for this event, the show must go on. Round 2, Morales is immediately picking up his offense and landing rather effectively. Maidana would come back, as it looked like it was going Maidana's way. Before we get there, let's not forget the 3 Mexican kings, Morales, Barrera, and Marquez. No matter what happens, if their opponent one-ups them, they're going to come back with some fire and try to one-up you. And that's exactly what happened, and Maidana, in shock, had no answer.
Absolutely huge right hand. Maidana. And suddenly Maidana has been knocked back.
Maidana would take back the 3rd round, but Morales would pick it back up and rally in the final minute. The 4th round, Morales would lose, but the fight would be at his pace. The 5th round, Morales is completely picking apart Maidana, then to finish the round big, waking the crowd up and giving the folks who bought a ticket hope and their money's worth.
Oh, these are hard shots from Morales. And accurate.
A last stand by Morales, perhaps. Oh, the aging warrior teaching the young star a thing or two about hand speed and combination punching.
As Morales is getting a breather, Maidana is rallying back. As Maidana was about to end the round big, Morales comes back and puts it on Maidana to end the round.
Appeared to have been more affected by that punch than by any other shot he's taken from Maidana, and Maidana seems to know it, and the old warrior fights back again. He's never known any other way. He's never held for a moment. He's never tried to get away from combat. He's always fought his way out.
There's still greatness left in Erik Morales.
By this point in the fight, no matter what happens, Morales won the event. Morales is forcing Maidana in the 7th round to fight off the back foot, and Maidana is getting eaten up because of that. 8th round would be all Morales. Morales would crack him early, stumbling the contender, then to fight with him in the phone booth. Despite Maidana mounting up a good counter offense, it's being overshadowed by Morales's. This round goes to show that Maidana did not prepare properly, like he did with the Khan fight, and he is at this point exhausted, while Morales looks like the fresher guy.
Round, but it hasn't happened. Oh!
Huge left hook! Maidana's holding on. Maidana is still in trouble as he stands in the corner and waits. Morales.
Oh! The uppercut on the inside. See, and the hook.
Big left hand by Morales.
Morales, after the 8th, would tie Maidana on Harold's scorecard. Maidana, despite looking out of it in the 8th, and the 9th, he would let out one ballsy, energy-taxing flurry of shots, trying to get Morales out of there, under the assumption he had punched himself out.
Seized command and strafed Morales with a series of about 12 power punches. And right now, Maidana believes that he's trying to finish the fight.
Maidana would come to a rude awakening and get caught with a 3-punch combination while rushing in. Morales would take over the back half of the round, leaving it all on the line.
All of a sudden, Maidana has found a second win. Look at him take Morales' hard shots.
Erik Morales.
Unbelievable. I don't think there's a soul in the arena who believed that Marcus Maidana versus Erik Morales was going to become a serious candidate for Fight of the Year.
And yet it is. Not to mention upset of the year.
Morales would craft up another solid round, making it 96-94, 2 rounds up on Harold's scorecards.
To think that he could do it.
It also points out,
hypothetical question, you're at Canastota. Oh. Well, we can't talk about it now because he's finally, after a while, he said, maybe Pacquiao.
Yeah, it was
Barrera. At this moment, it's hard to imagine that Barrera could be competitive.
Maidana would finally rally back this round due to Morales' lack of punch count and win it. With the fight potentially on the line, Maidana would go all out to get Morales out of there, but Morales was keeping it even in the first half. The final half is up for grabs, as both guys are landing at a great rate. The final straight at the end may have won it for Maidana in the 12th. Due to Morales losing the 11th and the 12th, Harold scored the fight a draw in the scorecards. 1 out of the 3 judges would score it the same as Harold, 114-114, and the other having it 116-112 in Maidana's favor, ruling it a majority decision. Just think if Morales wasn't blinded in the first round to where he had to use instincts figuring out where Maidana's at, that and having maybe one more fight leading up to this, he may have very well beaten Maidana. So obviously because of this show, Maidana did not fight Khan, and Khan went to unify against Zab Judah.
Al inicio de la pelea, tenía mis dudas. ¿Será este el momento donde el boxeador se tiene que retirar y no lo entiende, no lo alcanza a ver? Nah.
As discussed in my video of real-life Hajime no Ippo moments, Takahara is a real-life Takamura. Jorge Castro was considered to be the best middleweight in the division after big wins against champion Reggie Johnson for the WBA title, the undefeated John David Jackson, and another big win in his rematch against Reggie Johnson. This put Castro number 2 in the world ranks under the G-Man Gerald McClellan. Given this is an archive ring issue of 1995, and this fight took place later in the year of 95, when it was indefinitely ruled that Gerald McClellan will not be returning to boxing due to his incident with Nigel Benn, that will make Castro as a number 1 ranked middleweight in the division by Ring Magazine. Japan is not known for fighters above the lightweight divisions, so Shinji, with his skills and natural size, at that time was practically unheard of. Takahara will only finish middle school and skip high school to further his boxing training. He started his pro career at 17 years old. Unfortunately, the Pacific region in that weight class at that time was incredibly weak. The opponents he was facing were unknown and pushovers, thus putting Takahara under the radar. Takahara would quickly pick up the Japanese regional title, important title you need to even get into the world ranks if you're not from America. He would make 4 defenses. One of those defenses was against a now familiar face in boxing, the father of the 2-time and unified champion Kenshiro Taraji. Pretty wild. His dad is a natural middleweight sitting at 6'2", and his son, who is on the road to becoming a future Hall of Famer, is 5'5", fighting at light flyweight. Anyways, Shinji would pick up the OPBF crown, which signifies he is the best in the Pacific region. Like I said, the Pacific region is incredibly weak. It is comedically weak. So Shinji blew through these guys. He showed he had quite a bit of punching power, but there's actually no way to tell he can actually crack because the lack of ranked opponents. We're talking about in the top 50 ranks. After 4 defenses of the OPBF crown, the 23-year-old's management somehow got him a title shot against the best fighter in the weight class. Now his management had a lot of faith in him to not only get the fight, but get the fight in Japan. But they didn't think the Japanese public had faith in him to win, so they booked the fight in the legendary Korakuen Hall over a large arena in fear of losing money of their investment due to low gate. This fight can easily pack the hall and create an amazing atmosphere over the Yokohama Arena or the Superdome, which those same amount will buy the tickets, but there will be many empty seats because this was a mismatch on paper. Castro, more than likely thinking this is an easy payday, then he will be back on his way to a bigger fight, came to a rude awakening. From the first round and on, Takahara, who has never fought a top 5 rank, better yet a top 30 rank fighter in his career, rose to the occasion and fought like he's a top 5 rank, and then some, completely taking apart the ill-prepared Castro. Shinji was even able to hurt and knock down the champion. Round by round, Shinji was shocking spectators, which you can see the nervous excitement that their homegrown fighter is going to be Japan's first middleweight champion. Takahara would finish the fight strong and seal the deal and make history to do so. It's actually a good thing he never let off the gas and put it on Castro, because despite the beating Castro took and the knockdown, one judge had it 114-116. Adonis Stevenson was an upcoming prospect quickly moving through the ranks in Canada and world ranks, picking up the WBC Continental Regional title, then the WBC International title. So a fight against a fighter who has a record of 16 and 15 with 2 draws on your US and Showtime debut doesn't really sound good. So Showtime never broadcasted it, the footage never exists besides home video. Darnell Boone was coming off a stupendously busy 2009 year after a 2-year hiatus. 6 fights, all 6 against blue chip prospects, most notably Edwin Rodriguez, Arislandi Lara, and Craig McGuinn. He will start the 2010 year off fighting prospect Jose Angel Rodriguez and Brandon Gonzalez. Everything about this reeks of cherry picking. Boone was notified on a 2 weeks notice. Boone was currently training himself at the time. Dude had no trainer. Despite Boone not knowing much about Stevenson either, he assumed he can't be that experienced. So with Boone already being sharp from his constant activity, he took the fight. And, well, there you go. This home video here pretty much explains itself. This would probably make number 1 on the list, but I think we know what will be discussed last. Seinsek Mungsurin is a Muay Thai great. The champ accomplished what he wanted to accomplish and wanted to make a splash in boxing and do it fast. He wanted a world title shot immediately, and the best thing to do is challenge the number 1 contender, and that was Rudy Barrow. Rudy was ranked number 3 by Ring Magazine, number 1 by the WBA at lightweight, and number 3 by the WBC at junior welterweight. He was in line to fight WBC junior welterweight champion Perico Fernandez in January that next year. Rudy's record wasn't all too impressive, and his claim to these positions was a string of upsets, earning him the nickname Mr. Upset. Mungsurin's people paid Rudy $20,000 to come to Thailand and fight their guy in hopes that Mungsurin will get a title shot. Rudy gladly accepted the offer because in the mindset of folks in boxing, even to today's mindset, boxers and most boxing fans do not consider Muay Thai artists and kickboxers as real boxers. Despite the fact that you have to be taught the art of Western boxing to progress in these arts. Well, this is 1974, so Rudy gets a pass for his ignorance. A crowd in the thousands showed up for the former Muay Thai champ's professional boxing debut. Barrow is on the immediate attack at the start of the first round, thinking that's all he has to do to get Mungsurin out there. Seinsek took no time at all to figure Barrow out, and he took him out with a perfect counter right, laying out Barrow, ending the fight in under 1 minute of the first round. On paper, Mungsurin should be in the line to fight for the title. Perico wouldn't mind either because a lot of money is now being offered for this fight. But the WBC stepped in, mostly because they were suspicious that Barrow took a dive. And WBC President Roman G. Velasquez stated, no fighter with 1 professional bout should be fighting for a world title. In order for him to fight for the title, he needs to fight another WBC ranked opponent within the top 10 or win the Asian Pacific title. So to end this segment off, Seinsek fought number 3 WBC ranked Leon Fuduyama. Seinsek would stop Leon in the 7th round, earning the shot for the junior welterweight crown. He would knock Perico Fernandez out in the 8th round to be the fastest fighter to become world champion. Now, if you follow this channel or me on social media, you know I have no problem with these types of fights. With all that being said, many slept on Francis Ngannou. He came from the UFC, but unlike McGregor, Francis has a legit kickboxing background. Even though he started out in kickboxing and only had 1 or so fights professionally, he still had to spend quite a bit of time learning the art. Throughout the history of boxing, kickboxers and Muay Thai guys have proven they can easily transition into traditional Western boxing and become world-class fighters. I think one excuse I heard was Francis wasn't that good of a kickboxer. Well, neither was Won Jung Kan. Won Jung Kan was convinced by his manager that he will be a better boxer than a Muay Thai fighter. He went into boxing after 50 Muay Thai fights. The man became a 2-time lineal champion and WBC champion. He holds the record of the fastest knockout in flyweight title fight history, holds the record for the most title defenses at flyweight, and was awarded as the WBC champion of the decade. Yeah, so much for a non-boxer. I feel like if fans looked more into the history of these guys who came from the other arts of combat, this gatekeeping mentality will come to an end. Heavyweight legend George Foreman once said, "There's no book in the world of making it in boxing because any path can become a successful path." This was in reference to the new undefeated contender who later became a unified champion, Nate Campbell, who picked up boxing at the late age of 25, went pro at 27, and found himself in the mix for a title shot just barely 2 years as a pro. Now, going by how offbeat Tyson was on the pads during fight week, let that set the tone how ill-prepared he was coming in. To also note that Tyson looked past Francis's size and strength. Outside of the Klitschko fight, Tyson always had the size, strength, and weight advantage on his opponents, which seemed to be an Emmanuel Stewart Kronk Gem signature with his heavyweights, as Lennox Lewis and Vladimir Klitschko uses these tactics. Peck away at the outside, occasional straight, then hold, pushing all that weight on their guy, rinse, wash, and repeat to where their guy is so tired and battered that they can catch them with something they can't see or just simply get the stoppage. Fury could not use these tactics, and he would have to think twice before even trying to hold because Francis has the advantage. So we would see Fury fight more on the outside like in the Klitschko fight and when he was testing waters and boundaries in the first Wilder fight. The lack of Fury not being able to fight at his pace, we were treated to some interesting moments early on, which led to a beautiful counter left hook by Nagano to floor Fury to the canvas. Tyson will have his moments which were supposed to have been part of the script, but Nagano is outshining Fury by a wide margin. Right when it looked like Fury was just getting ahead in the fight, Francis would come back big, as seen in the 8th round. Absolute struggle by Fury to get anything on Francis, who is displaying quite a fine defense, something that is expected from someone who has practiced kickboxing. Francis, who expended a lot of energy throughout the whole fight, did not finish the fight strong. He finished as if he was up on the scorecards without the need of putting in a dagger, which in boxing that's frowned upon with the judges. Though there wasn't really a title for this fight, reasons why it was 10 rounds and not 12, you gotta take the title away from the champ. So there's many situations where this has happened in a close fight and the judges would side and give it to the champion or the A side. The career of Winky Wright is a perfect example. He did it not only in his fight with Fernando Vargas, but also against Jermaine Taylor, which cost him dearly.
I was like, what is he doing? I mean, he went in on the flurries. Go ahead and fight me. If I was him, I just would have kept fighting. That's the difference between us.
You think, since this fight was a draw, that he blew the fight in the 12th round?
If he wanted the title so bad, he should have fought all 12 rounds, because that's what I would have did. That's what I did. I fought all 12 rounds. I didn't get in there running them last rounds thinking I had to fight one. You know, I feel like it's a boxing match. You got to fight all 12 rounds.
Fury would win by a debatable split decision. Reasons why I say debatable is because I read mixed opinions on the scoring. It's pretty divided. It's either people thought Fury won just barely, the fight was a draw, or Francis won. But like the Morales-Maidana fight, Francis may have lost the fight officially, but he won the event. With the elephant in the room here, if we as boxing fans are going to have the energy with Deontay Wilder's reign as a WBC champion, where we saw much of nothing and no unification for the undisputed title, we need to have the same energy for Tyson Fury. It's going on exactly 10 years since Vitaly Klitschko vacated the WBC title, retired from boxing, and his brother, who had all the belts, went on a journey to obtain his brother's title, where he was blocked from doing so. These 10 years, it's been one party with 3 out of the 4 belts, and one party and their unwillingness to fight for the undisputed title. As I'm saying this now in early November because I haven't heard anything yet, if this is not made by late this year or early next year, Fury needs to do his job as champion and fight as mandatory or be stripped of the title. New title holder, same BS. Where's the end? In 1960, Pong King Pech became the flyweight champion. He was awarded, soon to be axed, NBA title. When the NBA ended due to corruption, the WBA took its place. All current world champs were given the title, including Pong. In Pong's 4th defense of the flyweight title and 1st defense of the WBA title, he went on to fight little-known 26-1 Fighting Harada of Japan, who was 19 at the time and unranked. This was seen as a massive mismatch. The WBA refused to sanction the bout. However, King Pech is a legitimate champion of the weight class, so he really did not need a new organization's approval for this championship bout and still went forward. Since the fight was still going forward, the WBA will state that they will not sanction the fight. However, if King Pech loses to Harada, they will recognize Harada as a WBA champion, since this fight is still for the flyweight world title and the lineal title at that. Pong was shocked by the young challenger's speed, strength, and power, which had caught him completely off guard. King Pech was unable to get a clear footing and rhythm in the fight. Harada was just too much that night, and he was able to pull off the massive upset, stopping King Pech in the 11th round to become the flyweight world champion. Before we get back to the video, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell because a lot of viewing is not subscribed. It really helps the rest of these subscribers view this video. YouTube has literally shadow banned this page. They are killing it right now, to where subscribers are not informed till days, weeks, or at times never that a new upload has dropped. Hopefully things will be better next year. Thanks for the support, thanks for sticking around to the end, and let's get back to the video. Nuntshinga would pick up the IBF title back in 2022. He will make his first mandatory defense in July of 2023. Since he had already fought his mandatory, his next fight will be against 23-4 Adrian Kurel, which was somehow made a title fight. I've checked the IBF rankings throughout that whole calendar year and the months leading to the fight. Adrian was unranked, then magically popped up at number 12 in the ranks in June. This is the Ring Magazine rankings at the time. He's not there in the top 10. I did go ahead and check if he was ranked by the WBC, which he was at number 16, which would not make him qualified to fight for a world title under that organization. The beauty about the lower weight classes is you never know what you're going to get. Records can be very misleading. Anything below flyweight, for the most part, everyone will end up fighting each other at one point, which would leave fight fans caught off guard. The best example is Roman Gonzalez's first fight against Juan Francisco Estrada. Juan was unknown. He fought on small TV Azteca cards, and the only people that vouched that this fight is far from a mismatch is people who attended his fights and the small majority who tuned into his fights. This matchup here is no different. The fight would start off as your usual Nuntshinga fight. Very sharp start by the champ, then in the second it would be a complete 180. Adrian would begin to apply more pressure effectively, cutting off the ring to where Nuntshinga seemed to be not able to get off the ropes. The body tack was really bothering his rhythm. Then just before the end of the first minute of the second round, Adrian would floor Nuntshinga with a massive overhand right, Marcos Maidana style. No way he was going to make the count, and the ref waved it off within seconds, giving Nuntshinga his first loss, and Adrian now the new champ in the weight class.
I like this from Kurel.
Oh, tremendous right hand from Adrian Kurel. He timed it as Nuntshinga was making his way around the ring, and the referee has waved it off long before completing the count.
This is one of the rare cases of an early fighter's fight being a cherry, because the rules seem to be a lot different in America. If a fighter has multiple losses in a row, they are usually, if not every time, given a medical suspension. So a lot of these valuable guys whose job is to lose will be tossed over to a fighter they're supposed to win against so they can continue to be thrown to prospects. In the UK, I don't think there's any such limit unless that fighter is brutally knocked out, obvious cuts, or injuries. UK prospect John Robertson would begin his career fighting those type of fighters I mentioned, making his pro debut against the growing local legend, 7 wins, 108 losses, Daryl Sharp, followed up in his second fight against the 6 wins and 40 losses, Edgar Sneeds. So his third fight will be against Patryk Polasek of Poland. He has 2 wins and 18 losses. He will go on a 5-fight losing streak, have a fight in Chechnya, win, then go on another 11-fight losing streak, fly back to Chechnya, pick up another win against a questionable fighter, and then come back to the UK. I'm guessing since Patryk is not a national where he fights mostly, he has to at least get 1 win here and there in between these losing streaks so he won't face any boxing license issues. So after the Chechnya run, he will go on a 2-fight losing streak before being matched up against John Jake Paul Robertson. Well, the fight will come to a crappy start for John, as he would get cut towards the end of the first round. Looks to be from numerous headbutts from Patryk. Every time they get in on the inside, he is bobbing away, which led to a warning by the ref. A bit too late, as this was happening the whole round prior to that. Clearly bothered by the cut and off rhythm, John was getting tagged by Patryk. John will have a better third, however, he is just not throwing enough, especially to earn the respect from Patryk, as he is just roughing him up every time when Robertson initiates a hold, as well as getting some headbutts in. So you have a guy who's holding too much and a guy who's headbutting too much. Who gets penalized first? Yep, Robertson would get penalized for holding at a crucial time in the 4th round, but that wouldn't really matter, as all judges gave every round to Patryk, resulting in Robertson to earn his first defeat. Peter McGrail is an undefeated prospect from the United Kingdom. After successful 2023 to end the year off, he will fly over to make his US debut. The opponent, O'Quinn from Detroit. O'Quinn on paper had an attractive record that was tailored to make McGrail look good. O'Quinn had been knocked down twice in one fight, which resulted in a draw on his resume against a fighter who was 2-3. Another fight he won, he was dropped again in. One fight later, which resulted in his first loss of his career, he would get dropped 3 times in the first round before being waved off. It's easy to say he has chin problems, however, I believe it's more of a defensive problem rather than a chin problem. Anyone who gets hit that clean is going to be in some serious trouble. Sort of a head scratcher, since some of the greatest defensive boxers and defensive minds that cultivated boxing talent hailed from the Midwest. Alright, the fight. The fight would start off as expected when you take the scouting report into account. McGrail will get the early knockdown in the 2nd round. To O'Quinn's credit, despite the defensive lapse, his feet was tied up. Still got hit clearly, however, the knockdown was more just balance than anything else. In the 4th round, he will leave himself open and get dropped. O'Quinn, actually seeing the shot before getting dropped, will get up with ease and show no signs of being hurt, which concludes it's more of a defensive issue than a chin issue.
Boxer. He's been as you say that, down goes O'Quinn again! And maybe on a different level as a puncher. That was a strength.
The difference in class and skill is very apparent, as McGrail is just picking his shots, rather patient and comfortable where he has his opponent, but maybe a little too comfortable.
Chris, I know there's a certain level of competition that's in the ring with McGrail right now, but this guy looks like a world champion already.
He got O'Quinn on the ropes looking to score big. O'Quinn would parry McGrail's attack. O'Quinn would hit him with the perfect punch, right on the jaw, right on that nerve, which would completely put McGrail away.
6 inches through the target.
Never quit! Never stop punching! You never know what can happen! Do you believe this? Jericho O'Quinn! Unbelievable! One of the best comebacks of 2023!
This is really amazing right here. This is the threading the needle type shot here. If it lands, it's over. Sometimes it looks pretty, sometimes it looks absolutely ugly and awkward, like when Tony Thompson knocked out David Price. Since this is rather recent, we may actually see a rematch next year. I'm excited to see how this will turn out, because if O'Quinn was able to improve fundamentally, this will be a fun rematch for the books. Alan Garcia, lightweight prospect who really had a busy schedule in 2024. Since I can check the ranks on his resume, pretty much all his opponents are ranked within the number 508 at the lowest to above number 1000 at the highest. Fighters that he obliterated were close to the 1000 world ranks, and fighters who came close to number 500 in the world ranks he took to the scorecards. He would fight Wilfredo Flores, who is ranked number 508, and take him to the scorecards. His next fight will be a step downward against a fighter who is ranked number 812 in Mexico, where he will get the stoppage victory. His next opponent on primetime TV will be against the 15-3 Ricardo Fernandez, which Garcia, who is at number 255, and Fernandez at number 288. Low risk, high reward. The reward being this will put Garcia up in the ranks at the low risk expense because out of 15 wins, Fernandez only has 1 knockout. So what can possibly go wrong here? Now, it could have been some bad instructions coming into the 4th round. Unfortunately, I can't show you the footage because I will receive a third-party claim by a party who absolutely abuses the copyright tool and does not believe in fair use. Unlike the sponsor of this video, Fernandez had adjusted to Garcia's speed and was beginning to time Garcia when he came in on the ropes. Garcia begins to land less effectively, a lot that was glanced or parried away. He's still winning the round based on punch count and the lack of offense from Fernandez, despite whenever Fernandez does throw, you can see the holes where he can land, where that became apparent in the 5th round. A perfectly timed shot by Fernandez that Garcia would not see at all that floors him to the canvas. Garcia would make an attempt to get up. Raul Caiz Jr. gave the prospect 1 extra second when he turned around to instruct Fernandez to stay in the opposite corner. Now, if he would have pulled off a Marlon Wright when Andrade practically knocked out Butte, he probably would have made the count.
So he needs to buy time, so he turns around in one of the most contemptible exhibits of hometown refereeing I've ever seen. Maybe the worst I've ever seen.
This would be Garcia's first loss. This is definitely one of the candidates for knockout of the year. Really, you can say all the fights leading up to this was a cherry pick. James Braddock was seen as a done fighter by the boxing public and the general population. With the Great Depression in full effect, impoverishing pretty much all of America, including Braddock himself, this made Braddock's comeback to the sport to support his family at all costs. After recovering from a broken right hand, he would face the 5-1 Corn Griffin. Braddock was given a 2 days notice. He was seen as a washed up fighter by people in boxing, and they were just throwing him one last bone of $250. With the expectations he was going to fall and make their young fighter look good, as this was considered a tune-up fight. Braddock stops Corn in the 3rd round. The next fight, he was up against the 8-2 favorite John Henry Lewis, which he will beat Lewis on points. Braddock was then matched up against number 3 ranked Art Lasky, who just came off a loss to number 1 ranked Steve Hamas. Drew to number 5 ranked Steve Levinsky. Lasky was the 3-1 betting favorite. A win here would keep Lasky in the mix for a title shot. Lasky would lose on the scorecards. The odds on all these fights and the fact that Braddock was winning really made him into the people's champion. A lot of people made some good money betting on Braddock. Now keep in mind, Braddock, according to the February Ring Magazine rankings, he was not ranked in the top 10. The number 1 contender for 1935 is Steve Hamas. Bear was a younger, much more talented fighter who was quite popular before he even became champ.
Also proved that he was a great fighter, a third gentleman in and out of the ring, and one of the greatest fighters the American public has ever had, if not the greatest. And I predicted Max to be champion for a long time to come.
Braddock was the low risk, high reward, and no one will complain that it is a cherry because Braddock was supported by the people. Max came in as a 10-1 betting favorite. Braddock would seal the epic quadfecta of upsets and beat Bear to become the heavyweight champion. I can only imagine how much money people made betting on Braddock all the way through. When Rocky Marciano became the champ, his town threw him a parade because they made so much money betting on him.
Newtown had a new identity, and Brockton proudly celebrated its native son. Thousands of the city's working-class citizens had gambled it all on Marciano. Homes, cars, and bank accounts. This was their thank you.
I don't know if Braddock got a parade, but in 2018, he got a massive statue crafted in his honor. The statue was made by a guy named Zeno Frudakis. That is a fine piece of artistry. They should have gotten that man to do the Dwayne Wade statue, because that is, oh boy. In 1975, John Stracey would dethrone and retire the great Jose Napales in the 7th round to become the WBC welterweight champion. After one defense, he would face unknown and unranked Carlos Palomino. This really requires no further context of me digging to prove elsewise, when the matchmaker himself admitted that this was a cherry pick. Matchmaker Mickey Duff would say this was a voluntary defense by Stracey, not a command one. And to be perfectly honest, we picked what we took to be a competitive, sealable, but least dangerous opponent for Stracey. We were never more wrong." End quote. Stracey would quickly find out him and his team had heavily underestimated choosing to fight Carlos, as he was just taking whatever he threw at him and just chipping away round by round. Relentless pressure was just too much. Despite nearly being at the finish line, a brutal body attack would send Stracey to the canvas. Despite getting right up, the attack to the body was relentless by Palomino, where you can see him wincing in pain. In due time, the fight was waved off, and Palomino, now the welterweight champion.
Through this round, he'll never make it. He's got him again, and Sid Nathan says enough. And in round 12, Stracey loses the world title.
I know this is a meme at this point. Well, especially recently with all the fighters from the UK having some of the worst luck against fighters from Mexico, but I didn't think this here would be some of the most earliest lore of a little known fighter from Mexico traveling across the Atlantic to score an upset victory over a UK world champion, contender, or blue chip prospect. Stracey may be the guy that started this curse. This guy literally Detroit Lions an entire region. I'm going to leave this up here and provide you with plenty of context, and I'll leave it up to the viewers to decide if this is a cherry pick or not, given the context. This was always a matchup people were wanting to see for a while. Really began to pick up at the end of the decade in 2019. Here's some home video of Haney in Ryan's locker room after the Duno win. In 2021, Ryan would become the WBC interim champion against Luke Campbell. Haney, before the Lomachenko versus Lopez fight, was promoted to the WBC champion, as Lomachenko was made the franchise champion so he could pursue an undisputed unification. He would make 2 defenses prior to Ryan becoming the WBC interim champ. Shortly after Ryan became the interim champ, he decided to take a break from boxing due to his mental health. Shortly after Ryan had made his comeback in 2022 in the lead up to the Kambosos versus Haney fight, the WBC ordered the Isaac Cruz versus Ryan Garcia fight for the interim title to set up a Haney fight. Well, the issue here is you have a PBC Al Haymon fighter and a Golden Boy fighter. These groups don't do business with each other. There has to be a lot on the line for them to come to the table and make an almost even agreement. It's just political theater. The belt organization is well aware them ordering such a fight between rival promotions won't do anything. It's just something that can be documented to say, hey, we tried. And our hands are a bit tied right now. Haney wins against Kambosos, becomes undisputed, has a rematch, then goes on to fight Lomachenko. And a shocking surprise, Ryan agrees to every nonsensical demand from Haymon PBC to fight Gervonta Davis. This fight would smash the viewership of Haney versus Lomachenko. According to Dan Raphael, the fight only received 150K pay-per-view buys. This is all combined from cable satellite and digital for a fight that only costed $59.99, despite Davis versus Garcia, which is not for a title, getting 1.2 million pay-per-view buys. The pay-per-view price almost $30 more than Haney Garcia at $84.99. During the pandemic, Ryan's mental health was starting to unfold, however, it was manageable. The loss to Davis made things a lot worse behind the scenes. Ryan would team up with a new trainer, and in his next fight, we wouldn't see improvements. However, we would see him try to utilize the shoulder roll defense, making it one of the ugliest examples in modern times. After a very tough to watch 8 rounds, Ryan would break through Duarte's defense and get him out of there in the final 20 seconds. Haney, who is trying to break out into the mainstream and get more limelight, would fight a couple days later against newly crowned WBC junior welterweight champion Regis Prograis. Haney, who came in at an alarming 165 pounds on fight day, would have a dominant but lackluster show to pick up the title, despite Haney's gait improving. We're talking about a pro-Haney crowd showing up. His viewership is not of what you expect from a undefeated, undisputed champ that has captured a second title and a second weight class. With Davis establishing he's part of the pay-per-view elite, if Haney were to get a fight with Davis, he must come to the table. However, Haney's father brought this to Twitter with offers that hold no weight, and Davis's handlers just shutting it down right there. One of the strategic keys in modern boxing to get out of fights you have no plans of taking: 1, ask for too much money. 2, act like you are the A side, who brings in the high majority of revenue, giving all sorts of demands. 3, put this all out in the open without ever going to a serious professional discussion at the negotiation table. This was simply a fake out, all when negotiations for a fight with Ryan was already underway. Garcia, who is popular as ever after the wake of the Davis fight, commands great viewership and has the popularity equally to Davis, if not more. Despite that, Ryan is part of a promotion that is in great relations of Haney's promotion. This is the easiest ride to getting what Haney wants, which is mainstream popularity, given the fact that there are some serious concerns in Ryan's camp and his mental health, which in the promotion leading to the fight, Ryan's behavior was erratic, spontaneous, and unhinged. Where it was looking very reminiscent to Mike Tyson's camp against Lennox Lewis.
In April, Tyson opened his training camp in Maui, Hawaii, and the few journalists who traveled there found Tyson's behavior as raw and unchecked as ever.
I may like more than other people. It's just who I am. I sacrificed so much of my life. Can I at least get laid? You know what I mean? I've been robbed of most of my money. Can I at least get a...
Think you can win this fight?
Are you talking out of turn?
No, I think we're all talking together.
This created huge concerns upon onlookers that this could be a huge mismatch on fight day, driving Ryan up to an 8-1 betting underdog. So the fight, Ryan would start off fast and win round 1.
Garcia said he was going to knock him out. Caught him again. The power advantage, and he gets out chin. Caught him again. Now that Lenard shot though came at the end of it.
Once things settled, Haney began to score. However, Haney was headhunting a lot more than usual. He wasn't going to the body with the jab to set up the right or a counter right upstairs to keep Ryan at bay, which Haney was piling up points, but Ryan wasn't affected nor respected Haney's offense. Ryan would release the latest revision to the ugliest shoulder roll defense. Surprisingly, it was effective from avoiding anything upstairs. However, it left his body open, which led to many shots to the back. However, this time avoiding quite a bit of shots to the back of the head, unlike in the Oscar fight. Ironically, this form of the shoulder roll was much more effective than Andre Berto's imitation of Floyd's defense in his fight against Robert Guerrero and Jesus Soto Caras.
Please don't do the shoulder roll and cross your left and cross your right. Keep both of them up.
Ryan will get a step back into the fight, dropping Haney for the first time in his career.
Start out strong. Out back. Oh, Sugar takes it down. Goes Devin Haney. He may be a one-trick pony, but that trick is enough.
Shortly after the knockdown, he would get a point deduction hitting on the break due to Haney's excessive holding. Ryan wouldn't do too much after the round. He will be back to his defensive state, mostly receiving shots to the back. Haney will bank in 2 rounds because of that, and in the 10th round, Ryan's offense will pick back up, and Haney will get dropped for the second time in the fight, and Ryan will finish the round off big.
As frequently as it needs to happen. Oh, he's got it locked again, and down for a second time. It's Devin Haney. Nice shot by Ryan Garcia right now. Haney. Oh, caught him again with that left hook, and now he's trying to finish him with the right. Ryan Garcia.
Ryan this time would not let off, as technically he's down or tied on the scorecards. He would bank in another knockdown in the 11th and finish the 12th round strong, while doing what I would call the Alabama shuffle to end the fight. Garcia would win by majority decision to give Haney his first loss, which this will later be switched to a no contest based on Ryan's test results and the events that followed. So given all the context here, do you think this was a cherry or not? Leave in the comments. Alright, for a little bonus, as I was putting this video together, a recent event of cherry picking had taken place. Jaime Munguia, one of the brightest prospects in 2018, had a rare opportunity to fight for a title and dethroned WBO champion Saddam Ali. Saddam, who was really supposed to fight Liam Smith, that fight ended up being canceled, and Jaime was put in place to fight Saddam. The 21-year-old would be successful against former champ Liam Smith, contender Brandon Cook, and contender Takeshi Inoue. There were big plans developing for Jaime, however, this would come to a sudden halt against Dennis Hogan. Jaime will receive a gift decision in his first fight back in Mexico after becoming champion. This fight exposed that Jaime was a lot greener than what was expected. He will end up moving up to middleweight after one last defense, and since he's relieved of duties as champion and less scrutiny from the general public and casual fans that would demand Jaime to do more and unify as champion, instead of holding the belt hostage and leading on the public, Jaime started back at square one, fighting guys he should have been fighting to gain experience and end up in title contention. However, we never ended up seeing him go on and fight for a title at middleweight despite earning the WBO Intercontinental title. It would have been easy politically getting a fight with Janibek, the now champion. However, there were other plans for Jaime. He will move up to super middle, got into title contention, and got into the Canelo sweepstakes. He will get his first loss on his resume against Canelo. A couple months after the defeat, he would have a comeback fight against undefeated contender and NABF champion Eric Bosnian, stopping him in the 10th round. Jaime's next fight will be his homecoming fight against unknown Frenchman Bruno Suras. Bruno had the attractive 25-0 record with an absolutely non-threatening 4 knockouts to go with it. Bruno's only knockouts were mostly at middleweight, where he makes weight at both weight classes, at middle and super middle. This fight being at super middle, where his power is the least effective, making it an easy homecoming fight on paper. Munguia would start the fight off as expected, knocking Bruno down in the 2nd round. Munguia is there to get hit with his style, and if Bruno can rebound, he would have a chance, and we would see that in the 4th round, where he would look a lot better. Jaime's still getting the better of it with the heavier, flashier shots and punch count. With fatigue setting in the 6th round, Munguia would let his guard down and get a bit too comfortable, where Bruno would catch him with a shot he did not see, flooring him to the canvas. The count being a bit on the quick side, however, Jaime would not make the count. A massive upset win by Bruno, and Homie in the white looked like he just lost a huge parlay. Outside of the Garcia fight, this is a huge runner-up for Ring Magazine Knockout of the Year. If you haven't seen part 1 of the series, you can say that was the part 1 to Wilder's reign. So it's 2018 now. Wilder's handlers have somehow managed to have Wilder avoid any threatening competition outside of the make-or-break Luis Ortiz fight. Meanwhile, IBF title holder Anthony Joshua does what Wilder wouldn't do and had a huge head start to do at that, which was unifying the division. Vladimir Klitschko was the first fighter to call out Wilder for the undisputed unification when Wilder became champion under the lousiest title grab in heavyweight championship boxing history. This was met with crickets by the US press. The most embarrassing excuse from Shelley Finkel why Wilder won't fight Klitschko. Given if the roles were reversed, Wilder was the champion with 3 belts and Klitschko was the newly crowned champion with 1 belt, and this excuse was given, Klitschko would have been roasted to no end by the American press. They call it a weak era, but when they finally have a guy that's champion, they now want to protect him at all costs. So due to the mess with the Fury versus Klitschko rematch, Joshua and Klitschko was set up for the vacant WBA title, making this a unification fight. Joshua wins, and to start off 2018, he would unify against Joseph Parker for the WBO title, where he would earn the decision, then go on to knock out Alexander Povetkin in the 7th round later that year. The main talks right now is a fight with Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder. Wilder and his people want this fight in America. The thing is, Joshua is a clear A side despite not having the belt longer than Wilder. His short period of time, he built up a far better resume and has unified 3/4 of the division with record-breaking gate attendance and big TV viewership. The power and influence is across the Atlantic, as the US lost everything in 2007. So instead of making a compromise and making the biggest heavyweight unification since Lewis Holyfield in the UK, Wilder and his handlers came up with another plan to give them leverage at negotiation, and that was to go after the lineal champion Tyson Fury. Tyson, despite losing all his titles before his untimely retirement, was still the lineal champion because he beat the guy that beat the guy, which Fury was in the middle of coming back to the sport, slowly coming down from almost 400 pounds to his usual fighting shape. If Wilder beats Fury, he becomes a lineal champion, which technically that will make him above Joshua, and with the media on Wilder's side, this will be effective to sway public opinion that Joshua has to come to America to prove he is good against Wilder. By August, Fury had lost pretty much all the weight and successfully went 10 rounds against former contender Francisco Pianeta to set up the Wilder fight. Now keep in mind, Fury within a not so long period of time went from almost 400 pounds to a lean 258 pounds, on top of recovering from depression and horrific substance abuse. This should be the easiest, most conservative pathway to being on top of the weight class. However, it would not go that way. Fury would shock many. Wilder would score a knockdown in round 9 and almost get Fury out of there in round 12. Miraculously, Fury would not only make the count, but go toe-to-toe with Wilder, putting him on the back foot to end the fight off. Due to the knockdowns, the judges ruled it a draw on the scorecards, resulting in a massive failure on Wilder's end. However, this would be a miracle due to this meme that transcended into mainstream culture in the final round, where Fury does his best Undertaker impression. This drew a level of excitement and spotlight the heavyweight division has not seen in the States for a very long time. This will make the rematch huge, and if Wilder were to win, he would indefinitely have the A-side backing to leverage the Joshua fight to be in the States. While the rematch was being set up, another miracle would strike. Anthony Joshua will lose in a massive upset to Andy Ruiz. This elevates Wilder to number 1 in the rankings, Joshua to number 4, and Fury to number 3. Joshua will recapture the title at the end of the year. However, this puts Tyson Fury at number 2 and Wilder remains at number 1, which means their rematch will be for the ring and lineal heavyweight title, giving Wilder, if he were to win, the ultimate leverage in making the Joshua fight happen in America and under his own grounds. Wilder much more heavier than he was in the first fight. Fury, who also came in much more heavier as well. This will work to Fury's benefit, as he has more extra weight on his shots, and he could push that weight down on Wilder to tire himself out. Wilder, who is not used to a man that big and heavy pushing down on him and putting on all this unnecessary weight, which made him awfully slow in comparison. Wilder's mouth was wide open by the end of the second round, which is not a good sign at all compared to how fresh he was in the first fight. Deontay would get dropped the following round. Fury would end up finishing Wilder in the 7th round to become the WBC, ring, and lineal heavyweight champion. And this wouldn't stop here. However, I'll cover later in part 3.